Whew. Keanu kisses abound for everyone. I love it when people reach out on Twitter, Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
I give Twitter a hard time, but there's some really good things that can come from it, of course. There's also like the total cesspool at times. But anyway, when people...
It sounds like humanity. It sounds like the human race.
Yeah, kind of. But I love when people reach out like, I'm here for the Keanu kiss.
Yeah.
That's right. It's
Keanu,
all for you.
Man.
It's all the love. It's all the love we have for you and our audience. All right, let's do this in 3, 2, 1. Sometimes fantasy football is as simple as just start everybody against bad teams. The Rams against Houston. You're going to love this one. Yeah. All right, start your Rams, Bloom. And we got some Houston stuff to talk about that's interesting. But let's start with the Rams, where it's Stafford and it's Higbee. And, of course, it's Cooper Kupp. Van Jefferson now stepping in. And it's funny when a backup tight end goes down. It leads them to more 3 wide receiver sets, which means more Van Jefferson. Robert Woods is like, me too, over here. Right. Yeah, Darrell Henderson, yes. So, yeah, start your Rams on the road against Houston.
And we thought last week was a start your Rams week against the Lions. It ended up being a start your Cooper Kupp week like every other week. But, yeah, you're going to play Higbee. You're going to break ties in favor of Robert Woods. You're going to break ties in favor of Van Jefferson, who was on the field 90+% of the time last week. So it's back to being a 3 wide receiver offense. And I would expect a big bounce back game from Darrell Henderson. And if actually it could probably help the Rams offense, jumping over to the Texans side real quickly, is we think that Tyrod Taylor is going to be back for this one too. So that could make this a more competitive game. Maybe it could hurt Henderson's chance of getting up to 25 carries, not necessarily. But we're going to watch this one, Cease, because if they are flat again, if Houston can summon up a kind of effort that Detroit did last week and hang with the Rams, because again, Cease, we're in a beautiful spot right now in between week 7 and week 8, where you can look at either side of the playoff bracket and you have a long list of teams that are potential Super Bowl teams. And maybe a month ago, we would say the Rams would be at the top of that list in the NFC, but not right now.
Yeah, things change pretty quickly, and things are changing for Houston with Tyrod maybe back, and then Mark Ingram dealt back to the Saints. We'll talk about the Saints a little bit later against Tampa, but what does this mean for Phillip Lindsay and David Johnson?
Right.
I mean, you're mining fantasy gold in Houston, and your pan will be empty if you're panning for gold. I don't know if you've ever been panning for gold, Bloom, but come up to Colorado and I can show you how. But anyway, so it's interesting, right? It goes beyond just start Brandon Cooks and forget everyone else. Well, what does it look like now if Tyrod is back and now with Ingram dealt?
One time at Knott's Berry Farm when I was 10 years old, they had like pay $1 and you get the pan and you get little flecks of gold and a little vial of water. I don't think I still have it, though. I should. The gold here might be Tyrod Taylor because, again, folks, first game of the year, he passed very well against Jacksonville. He, of course, is going to add as a runner. And then the second game of the year against Cleveland, he actually rushed for a touchdown. I think he was 10 for 11 passing before he got hurt. So he was playing the best football of his career before he got hurt. And the Rams defense maybe isn't so scary right now. So Tyrod Taylor is someone you're even considering as a streamer. And then you get Brandon Cooks against one of his old teams. It's like a 1 in 7 chance that Cooks is going to play one of his old teams in any given week, right?
Right.
Maybe he'll have a new team. You saw the memes like Brandon Cooks looking out through the window as Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara like, yay, we're together. And we're going to talk about that. So, maybe free Brandon Cooks, put him on yet another team. But for now, with Tyrod Taylor back, that's going to help. Remember in that first game, Taylor threw up some 50-50 balls that worked to Brandon Cooks. Not exactly what you think of when you think of Cooks, but you should think of fantasy production this week.
Anthony on Facebook is choosing us over Judge Jeudy. So thank you for that. I was like, all right, cool.
The verdict is football guys.
The verdict is let's talk about some football, which means next up, and a very interesting one, it's New England, and it is the LA Chargers. So let's do this, Bloom, and let's talk about the New England side of things. And what's interesting to note is it's Damian Harris, right? Faith in Jacoby Myers is waning, doesn't score touchdowns. And then the backup running back situation, we've already been told basically it's like, what's going to change all the time?
Yeah. So
it could be a Ramondre Stevenson week. It could be a J.J. Taylor week. Could be a Brandon Bolden week. You just don't know. Fantasy GMs are like, well, could it be Hunter Henry week again? That'd be nice. Against the Chargers, they'll need to do something.
This is a really fascinating matchup, Cease, because the Patriots are feeling good right now, right? They thumped the Jets like they were supposed to. They played the Cowboys straight up. Mac Jones is getting better each week. And the Chargers, of course, they're feeling good, although they limped into the bye week after the Ravens thumped them. And this could be a tough game for the Chargers. Chargers are 4-2. Patriots are 3-4. So you see the AFC playoff race maybe tightening a little bit if the Patriots can pull off the upset. And on the Patriots side, it's going to be a lot of Damian Harris. It's got to be. It's the Chargers' soft underbelly, the run defense, and they're going to attack it. I mean, maybe this is a Ramondre Stevenson week just because of his size, because of his burst, because of how much energy he takes to tackle, what he can do in the passing game. So this is one where Ramondre Stevenson could be a healthy scratch, or he could be a healthy flex. We'll find out, I guess, like an hour and a half into the early games. Mac Jones, so see if we're going to flip this and talk about against a rookie quarterback, not Bill Belichick, although we'll get to that, but Brandon Staley against a rookie quarterback. So we'll see what Brandon Staley has up his sleeve for Mac Jones, who's been playing better. Like you said, Jacoby Myers, and he'll get you a safe 8, 9, 10 points in PPR, but we're waiting for the touchdowns. Aguilar, Bourne maybe could hit on a long pass. And another thing we're going to watch here, of course, is Hunter Henry. 4-game scoring streak for Hunter Henry. Another revenge game. Revenge games everywhere we look, Cease. And maybe this is one where it's not truly a revenge game because I think we had a good idea that the Chargers weren't going to pay the price that the Patriots did. But if Jonnu Smith is out with that shoulder injury, then it's all systems go for Hunter Henry.
Yeah, and I don't think Hunter's the revenge type. Maybe wrong. No. Maybe could be totally wrong. With the Chargers side, we know Bill Belichick's going to take one person. He's going to take them away.
Right.
The one person is, because with the Chargers, it's simple, right? You already know the names. It's like, okay, it's Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, okay, Justin Herbert. Like, all right, how is Belichick going to? This is our trouble, yet it's so much fun. It's like a mystery box, Bloom.
Right.
Or one of those, what are those, like a trap room? What are those things you can go with your friends?
Escape room.
You have friends, escape room, right? And then like figure out the clues. Like, what's the escape room for facing Belichick this week? Who's the one person he'll take away?
Well, what's interesting here, Cecil, do you remember? Let's take a walk down memory road. Do you remember that these two teams played last year?
Not off the top of my head, no.
So I went back and looked it up, and they did. It was Bill Belichick against a great rookie, Justin Herbert. It was in New England. So do you have has anything coming back to you about this game when I mentioned it?
No.
45-0.
Okay.
45-0. Okay, now I know it's different offense, kind of, Joe Lombardi, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully the offensive line's better. Whatever, they made Justin Herbert look bad.
Well, this is revenge for them then.
Yeah.
Forget the Hunter Henry stuff. This is revenge for them.
Right. Herbert had 209 and 2 interceptions. Obviously no touchdowns in that game. It was a miserable, miserable game for the Chargers. And it was one of those Bill Belichick against a rookie quarterback. Well, we'll see what Herbert's learned. We'll see what Bill Belichick has learned. Fascinating. I'm not saying, you're going to play Herbert. I think it's got to be Mike Williams, right? Waffles in the chat room saying, hoping Belichick takes away Williams. I think that makes sense because that's the comfort zone for Justin Herbert this year. Although maybe that could play right into the hands of the Chargers because Jonathan Jones, the Patriots nickelback and slot corners out. I think out for the year. That's Keenan Allen territory, right? So maybe it's a Keenan Allen game, looking at it from a DFS standpoint. Austin Eckler, of course, and how would you even take away Austin Eckler? So that's one where I think, and the other thing is you can use Austin Eckler on high percentage plays. They've been running the ball well with Eckler. Of course, you have the tight ends, Cook and Parham. I'm not really sure which one you're going to play because Parham continues to be more involved. The other thing I'm watching here, Cease, is Joshua Kelly, who's starting to, with the door open with some injuries, he's the clear number 2, at least going into the bye, and we always see teams readjust priorities, reset, and I think this organization still believes in Kelly. I don't think they've given up on Kelly yet. And remember, they spent a 4th-round pick on him, and I think they had a plan of this Eckler-Kelly backfield. So a lot of questions, Cease. This game is a bit of a mystery because it ain't going to be 45-0, but you also would be naive if you thought, oh, well, Herbert's just going to flip this, and everything's going to come. No, obviously, Belichick has insight into how to scramble his circuits. because no one else was able to do that against Herbert last year. And this year, he had a poor game, I think, against the Raiders, even though they won. But I'm really interested to see how he rises to the challenge, knowing that Belichick checkmated him last year.
Yeah, knowing that that's happened and feeling the sting of that, right? What's Marcellus Wallace saying?
Right, pride.
So that sting in the back of your neck, that's pride messing with you. Okay, Justin Herbert, how much pride do you have? We're going to find out on Sunday. Now, some games, I look at the schedule and I go, Bloom, I can't wait to talk with Sigmund about these games. And then our next two games, I'm like, okay, how fast can we get through Jacksonville versus Seattle?
Right.
Right. Okay. Jacksonville side versus Seattle. It's in Seattle. All right. Jacksonville, not terribly interesting, but will we see more from Marvin Jones Jr.? Continue to feed James Robinson, please, and thank you. We all thank you for that. Hell, your team should thank you. And what does that mean for your outlier guys like a Visca? Could he have a larger week? Whatever. So we're already familiar with who can score points for Jacksonville. It's just a matter of will they?
Right. And it's Seattle's defense that we're not exactly that impressed with, but they were able to generally hold down the Saints. Not that the Saints bring that much to the table.
Saints kind of hold themselves down.
Yeah, that's the Saints. We'll talk about them coming soon to this show. And Cecil, you know what my first note on this game is? Change the channel. This is just to change the channel to another game.
change the record.
Right. Yeah. Change the channel to another game. First of all, every time we talk about the Jags, Cecil, we're going to say, we always have James Robinson. Oh, we always have James Robinson. See, I could imagine like the post-apocalypse, like we're all huddled around a fire under some like makeshift shelter. You look off in the distance and you can see James Robinson just like running through whatever, because he's just that unstoppable. He's not just the Energizer Bunny, but in this situation. Trevor Lawrence coming off a bye. Again, you get a week to slow down. Let's go back and look at the first 6 games. Let's see what gave you trouble. Let's see what worked. The Jags, hoping they're a competent organization that can set him up better for success. Maybe this is a spot where he could be, at least in 2 quarterback superflex leagues, a good play. I'll tell you who I'm interested in here. And yeah, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, they're perpetual what the heck flexes, okay? But let's watch the trajectory here. First of all, the Jags signed Jamal Agnew to a pretty big deal. I don't remember what it was, but for somebody that was a return specialist going into free agency, it was a pretty big deal, and they converted him to wide receiver. But you can actually see the progression here, right? First, they wanted Kadarius Toney. Well, the Giants took Kadarius Toney. Then they take Travis Etienne. Etienne goes down with foot injury. Now you have Agnew, who's a similar kind of talent, right? And he's coming along as a receiver, and they're using his speed in the offense to provide that element. So I might actually say that Agnew, out of Agnew, Jones, and Laviska, I think Agnew might be the guy that I want to play most in this one, a chance for a big play. And again, he continues to be more integrated into the offense coming out of the bye. This might be a Cordero Patterson situation where he's really a showcase player because of what we know about what Urban Meyer wants in his offense.
Yeah, what he wants in his offense. I'll leave that one alone. Let's talk about Seattle side, and we'll change the record or change the channel. Spencer's like, yeah, the Geno Smith part of the show.
Oh, Dios mio.
Yeah. All right. Gino. Hey, everybody. The running back situation has some questions. Hell, everything has questions in Seattle. Like you said, with the defense, they're just a very difficult team to figure out, and they don't want Russell Wilson anymore. Like, what? Like, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about Seattle quickly, please.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing that Geno Smith is revealing is how valuable Russell Wilson is to this team. Not that we didn't know that, but I think even Pete Carroll himself said something like, I've been with this team for a long time, and it wouldn't have been nearly as long of a time if we didn't have Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll basically saying like, yeah, I look like a good coach because I have Russell Wilson, because look at my team without Russell Wilson. For fantasy, you may go with Alex Collins just because you expect it to be a competitive game, and hopefully he's a little healthier coming off of the Monday night where they kept running him into stacked boxes. Oh my God, Cease, it's Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day. I mean, you have some elements, Tyler Lockett, Gerald Everett. You can stretch the defense horizontally. You don't have to run 8-man boxes. And there's some chatter, Cease, I know you love the chatter, that the dysfunction in this organization has not gone away. After all of the hope this offseason, they bring in Shane Waldron. You hear murmurs, don't blame Shane Waldron for this. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, what it means is it's the same old Seattle offense. Metcalf's in, Lockett's not in. You just got to bench Lockett. I mean, I hope that Lockett goes off in this game. I hope they find a way to use his skills. But yeah, this is definitely a problem. And by the way, I thought it was Pete Carroll that was the other coach that Mike Tomlin.
Sean Payton.
It was Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. And I really, and since I've had a chance to bring that up again, Cease, I almost cried at the end of that, watching that clip. You could tell Mike Tomlin almost cried too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an intense emotional clip, and I would recommend for people to check it out because it was that intense, much more intense than this game's going to be.
Well, and think about, again, how calm things look above water, and then think about what everyone has to deal with below water, especially coaches of color. So, Mike Tomlin telling you the truth, man, giving you a little insight. Yeah,
very much.
We appreciate that. We certainly do appreciate that. I'd appreciate if the Broncos were good. Now, I suppose I have to be very careful.
Oh, boy.
What I say. Even though last night on my show, I was like, hey, I heard the Broncos are mad at me. You know what I say to that? They'll be all right. Yeah, whatever.
The Broncos overcame that Cecil Lammey criticism to bounce back in Week 8.
He's so mean. Washington at Denver up next. And the Washington side, Taylor Heineke. Maybe a quick hook for Kyle Allen. Maybe. Potentially. But he's a rusher. That can be problematic for Denver's defense. Denver's defense stinks.
Yeah.
Highest paid secondary in the league. They stink. Now, calls are coming in late, but the players aren't playing well. Kareem Jackson's not playing well at all. And I don't think it's father time. At least I've been told that it's not father time. But yeah, he's not what he used to be for sure. So how can you pick on the defense? You're starting Terry McLaurin, of course. You're starting Ricky Seals-Jones. Remember, the Broncos can't cover tight ends, and now they're on their like fourth or fifth string, although getting Kenny Young, and Bloom, you can speak to Kenny Young's ability. Mm-hmm. He's a good player. Saw him at the Shrine game a few years ago out of UCLA. So they're working on street guys or guys that they traded for inside linebacker position. So Ricky Seals-Jones, yes. J.D. McKissic, yes. Not even what the heck flex. Get your flex on with J.D. McKissic. Yeah. Receiving backs, trouble for Denver. And Gibson will be RB2 flex play this week. So you've got Washington assets to be interested in because Denver's defense is so bad.
Yeah, it is. And if they don't have a defense, what do they even have, Cease? We have Terry McLaurin a little banged up here. You're not putting him on the bench, though. Taylor Heineke certainly has upside in this one. Like you said, Cease, adding as a runner in addition to the way he moved the ball against the Packers. The team just kept fizzling out in the red zone, at the goal line even. I do think you're right to highlight J.D. McKissic and Ricky Seals-Jones. So what they have to work with because of injuries is J.D. McKissic, other than McLaurin, is McKissic and Ricky Seals-Jones, which happen to correspond to the Broncos' weaknesses. And like you said, Kenny Young. So, I mean, Kenny Young's a solid player. But look, what are they down to now, Cease? How many inside linebackers have we gone through now? 5, 6?
6, I think.
6, yeah. So it ain't good. And again, now you're going to attack that with the receiving running back, with the tight end. And we'll see. I mean, I'm sorry, Cecil. And again, this is that show within the show. How is Cecil feeling about covering the Broncos right now? Or how are the Broncos feeling about Cecil covering the Broncos? The spinoff show. But this is a game that if they don't win, it's just going to continue to raise the volume of those calls for somebody's head to roll, and eventually all the heads to roll. But the other thing, Cease, you've chronicled is it's an issue with not having leadership, not having ownership that is going to step in and say, no more. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. And the fans might be saying that's enough. Cecil Lammey might be saying that's enough. But it's going to take an effort from Teddy Bridgewater so that we quiet that instead of making it louder this week.
Yeah. By the way, Andy wants a Fangio impression every day. Well, you know how the Broncos feel about me? They feel like how back in the day when Christians would go to a Sam Kinison show and they'd be like, I wish he'd stop telling those Jesus jokes.
No.
That's the old Sam Kinison. Anyway, let's talk about the old Vic Fangio. It's ageism. It's not because he's old. It's because he doesn't connect. Okay? It's ageism. Please stop with the ism. It's because he doesn't connect with his team. Because he's too stubborn to connect with his team. But Teddy Bridgewater connects. You want to talk about smooth? Guys love him. Guys would, run into oncoming traffic to save him. Like, they love Teddy Bridgewater. And Bridgewater's their guy. He said this week he's 75% healthy, which has led the Drew Lock stands locally to be like 100% Drew Lock's better than 75% Teddy. No, he's not. No, he's not. And a few games ago, Teddy was like 50% and he was still playing. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this game against Washington's defense, they can rush, but Teddy's smooth. He can climb up. He can find those guys. Jerry Jeudy's back. Judy's back. The problem with this game, and it should be a Broncos win, and it should be a good day for their offense, for their passing game. The problem with this is going to reinforce Shurmur and what he does.
All right.
Because you should go 3-vert.
Exactly.
Okay? I want Shurmur to run the ball more. It's where Javonte and Melvin, I'm getting choked up saying it, come into the play. They won't get used much as runners. Maybe as receivers is the key. We saw them both score receiving touchdowns last week. But with Jeudy back, Patrick's more of a what the heck flex. Sutton is a low end wide receiver 2 flex, and Judy's a low end wide receiver 2 flex, in my opinion. But Teddy's guy is back. Teddy's guy was Jeudy. This would be in the same vein as if Locke was the starter and Sutton came back. You'd say his favorite guy came back. Well, Jerry Jeudy's his favorite guy. He should be able to get open. I don't know how much will be there for Noah Fant. Of the 25 touchdowns that Washington has given up, only 2 have come to tight ends, Dawson Knox, and then last week, Robert Tonyan. So, Noah's a low-end tight end. Well, and he doesn't block, whatever. But this Broncos offense, the passing game, Bloom, could be quite robust.
Yeah. Cecil, you know what my first note on this game was?
What's that?
Like Pat Shurmur needs an excuse to abandon the run. It's going to, like you said, he's going to look smart, right? His natural inclinations to just abandon the run at the drop of a hat is actually what you're supposed to do against Washington. It's what Green Bay did last week, and it was successful. They don't have Aaron Rodgers, but they do have Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater, absolutely a sleeper quarterback play this week. Jerry Jeudy's back. He goes probably back into your lineup, especially in PPR leagues. Sutton stays in your lineup, like you said. Probably the drop-off is a little more Patrick and Fant. You see Teddy and Sutton developing that chemistry, Sutton continuing to play better. And like you said about those running backs, we're back to maybe like last week they caught touchdowns. That's what you're looking for here. Maybe they're more valuable for fantasy when the Broncos are just not even trying to run the ball because they can both do things as receivers. And, Cease, I get this question a lot. I want to just tee it up for you since it is a Bronco show. Without a Melvin Gordon injury, is there any chance of a Javonte Williams breakout in the second half of the year?
No.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling people. And
unless Shurmur gets fired. Shurmur gets fired, then
all bets are off.
Perhaps. Yes. So you do have one, like you're looking, again, I'm thinking sailing. You're looking for the land.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're looking for that lighthouse. If Shurmur gets let go, then yes. If not, no. Sorry. And I love Javonte. I started a question last night. Guy came out after the show, bought me some Cabo Wabo, which was fantastic.
Tequila, yeah.
Sammy Hagar.
Sammy, yeah.
It's the only thing I can drink on my diet. It's clear, and I love tequila. But anyway, so he was like, I got Javonte. I love Javonte, but I also have Myles Gaskin. I was like, I'm sorry to say it's Gaskin. And I'm not a Gaskin guy at all. At all. Even when he had big games, I'm like, he won't do it again. And then he doesn't. And then like 3 weeks later, he does something. So anyway, yes, if I'm telling someone to start Gaskin over Javonte, who I love, it's pain, Bloom.
Pain.
Football is pain. Love is pain.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, again, folks, if you didn't trust me, you can take Cecil's word for it. But maybe we can continue to hold out hope that Pat Shurmur gets fired.
Let's continue to hold out hope that New Orleans gets it. I don't know. Tampa Bay and New Orleans is up next in this one, and it is our cover athletes. Like, I don't know. Like, what do we, when we get the thumbnail images? What do we call these are our cover?
I call them poster boys.
Poster boys, cover athletes. Yes, of our weekly preview part 2 here on the Audible. It is Tampa Bay, it is New Orleans, and it is down there not too far from where you are sitting right now, Bloom.
Yep.
I saw it on the map. By the way, I sent that package in the mail for you guys, so enjoy that. Tampa Bay side, Antonio Brown not crutches, right? I think it was misreported.
Right.
He's on crutches. No, it was just one crutch. What does that mean? He's got a chance? Probably not.
No.
Well, we've seen this picture before. Although now with more Rob Gronkowski, do we know the status? Again, if you're
he was
listening,
back at practice.
Okay, we're recording early Thursday morning. Well, early for me anyway. So Like, all right, is Gronk back? But we know it's going to be Evans and Godwin and Fournette and
Right.
Tommy Brady doing his thing against the Saints defense that really can't do their thing.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Remember, when these two teams get together, throw it out. Throw out whatever your expectations are coming into the game. And there's so many layers to this one, Cecil. We could easily spend a good 10 or 15 minutes on this one. We might. Remember, these teams played 3 times last year. 3 times. First game, Brady was his first game regular season as a Buck, threw a couple picks. That was also the game when the whole Michael Thomas experience unraveled. That's when he got hurt on a garbage time play. And it was a Taysom Hill play. The second game was the worst game of Tom Brady's pro career. I'm pretty sure. If anyone wants to bring up a different one, go ahead. But it was the worst game of Tom Brady's pro career. And then the third game in the playoffs, it was more the unforced errors by the Saints offense than the Bucks offense marauding through there. So the Saints defense has a pretty good line on this Bucks offense. Gronkowski should be back. If he's back, he's in our lineup. And he may make a difference. You know, he wasn't... We saw Rob Gronkowski really return to form in the first half of this year before he suffered that injuries, before his guts got scrambled, you know. But he wasn't playing that way last year. So that could be an interesting factor that tilts this. Mike Evans, know this. Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans, man. That is some fun stuff. I mean, it's intense. Speaking of intense, it is an intense battle. Last year, in those 3 games, in 2 of the games, Mike Evans' lines were 1 for 3 for a touchdown and 1 for 2 for a touchdown. Okay, and in the other game, and those were the 2 games that the Bucks were competitive. In the game that the Bucks got blown out, he actually had better stats, but it was just a laugher. So you're playing Mike Evans, but it might not be a Mike Evans game. Antonio Brown, Bruce Arians said it's a long-term thing. I don't know if that means he's going to end up on IR or not. We're not going to see him this week. It's a Chris Godwin game then, for sure. And maybe a Tyler Johnson game. I know Tyler Johnson didn't do much. See, I bring up Tyler Johnson, and the good folks at Twitter say he's like Brady's 5th read. Probably true, but it could be still Tyler Johnson, what the heck flex kind of game. If we go back to the playoff win, Cease, both Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones were successful running the ball. Both of them, and they ran the ball a lot in that game, especially for this Bucks offense. So could this be a big Leonard Fournette game in his return? 7th ward, see, look at the map of New Orleans. You see where the Superdome is.
Yeah.
Just go a little bit downriver from where I am. That's where the 7th ward is. That's where Leonard Fournette and Tyrann Mathieu are from. So he's returning back to New Orleans, still beloved here. Maybe it's a Leonard Fournette game. Maybe even Ronald Jones is a deep what the heck flex, because I think that when we look at the one time the Bucks had success last year, it was not on the arm of Tom Brady. It was the legs of the running game.
Of Leonard Fournette and Bloom, and enjoying New Orleans anytime that I've been there, and I need to get down there sometime soon.
Yeah.
I say this with great acheness in my heart.
Sure.
Like,
you know what it means to miss New Orleans.
Yeah. You know I wanted you to move to Denver. Like, you know that. You know how much fun we could have here in Colorado. But New Orleans is so you, dude.
The story's not over yet.
New Orleans is so you, though. Like, it's perfect. It's perfect that Sigmund lives in New Orleans. Yeah. It's absolutely perfect. It's universe, right? It's the Keanu kiss.
Yeah.
The Keanu kiss is universal, man.
It is. It is.
The Saints are hoping for a little kiss from Mark Ingram. If that sounds weird, just stick with us. It's going to get weirder. So Mark Ingram would step in. Some guys come in and they learn the system and no. Just go. So how does Ingram, his return, it's kind of spark the Saints?
Yes. I think
it's very, very fascinating that a running back who hasn't done anything basically since he left, few things here and there, sure. But comes back and now could actually be pretty beneficial.
Yeah, there may be some marginal fantasy relevance if he gets goal line carries, but I still don't think that hurts Alvin Kamara, because I think that what we really have to look at this as just a huge boost of energy for this team. You saw the reactions from the Saints on social media. They are amped. They are pumped. They love Mark Ingram. The Saints players love Mark Ingram. The Saints city loves Mark Ingram. See, you just should have seen the headlines here. The city is obsessed with the Saints, and in a good way, in a loving way. And when the word came across the wire that Ingram was coming back to the Saints, it was like, a favorite son is coming home. We can go back to when he left, and it was a misunderstanding, really. And it worked out. Isn't it funny that Latavius Murray's on the Ravens now and Ingram's on the Saints? Like, the universe, your Keanu Kiss. Right. You know, it all worked out in the end. So Ingram, I'm not worried about the fantasy thing, but I think this is absolutely a shot in the arm for this team. And remember, Ingram, part of the reason that the Texans went out and got him was to be a locker room leader, to be a glue player, to be the kind of player that sets the tone for the younger players. And the Saints know that. The Saints know what they have in him. So there's a big release of energy here. But really, what the fascinating story is Jameis Winston against Tampa. Whoa. Remember, if Tom Brady had chosen San Francisco, isn't the word that he would have went to San Francisco if they wanted him, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, you know, you and Garoppolo are pretty much the same guy now. So, good luck, go elsewhere. Winston would have stayed in Tampa. If Brady doesn't go to Tampa, Winston's still the quarterback for Tampa.
Right.
And everything, you know, goes the way it goes. It's Tampa, so you abandon the run. So it could be a big Jameis Winston game. Wouldn't it be perfect to be a big Jameis Winston game? And a big Jameis Winston game could trickle down to maybe Marcus Callaway, maybe Traquan Smith, who knocked off the rust last week, maybe even Adam Troutman, who's getting more involved. But the key player and who I'm going to be watching for in the injury reports is Taysom Hill. I think Taysom Hill is a player, whether it's getting third downs and short because of what he adds as a runner and what he adds to give the defense to think about, whether it's getting things done as a receiver or a few times as a quarterback. I think that element in the Saints offense, we talked about it earlier in the show, like the Saints stopped themselves. Well, that Taysom Hill element is really important. And remember also in the playoff game last year, there was a trick play. I think it was a play that Hill and Winston, or maybe it was Breeze and Winston were in, but Winston ended up getting the ball on a trick play and threw like a 50, 60-yard touchdown pass to Traquan Smith. So, I mean, let's see what Sean Payton has in the playbook for this game, because he wasn't afraid to pull it out in that game and it worked. So what does he have for this one? This is an intense, exciting game. This is one of those games, Cecil, like the Ravens-Steelers games where you just hope that the injuries don't pile up on both sides because of the energy that these teams are going to put out there.
Colossal forces and intensity in 10 cities. What about intensity in Twin Cities?
I like that.
See the play on words. Right. Dallas and Minnesota. Well, intensity on one side anyway. The Cowboys side. And is Kellen Moore really the head coach? McCarthy's just the guy they put out there to eat the donuts and go to the press conferences. I don't know. But I love what this offense is doing now with more Michael Gallup. I don't know, pretty soon, Bloom. But let's talk about the guys out there and what they can do. Again, you already know the names. We're in week 8. You know who the Cowboys you can rely on. I guess I should say over the last few weeks. Now with more Dalton Schultz. Yeah, of course. Right. Go against Minnesota. They should be able to give it quite the go.
Maybe with more Michael Gallup. Colorado State.
Yep.
Maybe. So, hey, Dak Prescott has a calf injury. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really change anything because they're not using him as a runner. They're not putting the offense on his shoulders. He's still a solid play here, not an elite fantasy play. You also have with Michael Gallup back. I'm not plugging Michael Gallup back into the lineup, but that could reduce the margin of error for CD Lamb, for Amari Cooper. Not that you're taking them out of the lineup, because there's Dalton Schultz, the player that Dak Prescott has been most comfortable throwing the ball to, even though Schultz can be a little inconsistent. And then really what you have as the centerpiece of this offense is Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, especially Ezekiel Elliott. So you're going to have the balanced offense. You're going to have the offensive line opening up holes, controlling the line of scrimmage. And you're going to have long drives, and you're going to have this offense basically do whatever they want. And the question is, basically, can Minnesota keep up? But every time I see Dallas, Minnesota, I always have to come back to one thing, because it changed history. It was plate tectonics moving. The Herschel Walker trade. I see Dallas, Minnesota. I think Herschel Walker trade. It really changed the history of the NFL. And that was that big of a deal. So let's see, the echoes of that as Dallas going into the bye, favorite in the NFC. I feel like I want to be really delicate about that, but they played the best football, I think, in the NFC through 6 weeks, whereas Minnesota has been all over the place. Remember, they should have beaten the undefeated Arizona Cardinals, but they also should have lost to the winless Detroit Lions. Let's see what they can do in this one.
Yeah, see how they can put up a fight. Well, how they normally put up the fight is they want to run the ball. Okay, check. Your Dalvin Cook box. Okay. And, of course, you look at Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Maybe fantasy GMs want a little more. Fantasy GMs are so greedy, Bloom. But then it comes back to Kirk Cousins, the weirdo, or whatever. And you're like, oh.
Let Kirk drive the tractor.
Let Kirk drive the tractor. You have to get out the ether, though, because you have to spray those old tractors with some ether to get them started. So spray it on there. See if we can get started this week.
Cease, I know that he's not really Derrick Henry, but can't you imagine Minnesota treating Dalvin Cook like he's Derrick Henry in this game? Mm-hmm. Like giving him 30 carries. I mean, just basically saying, like, can you stop Dalvin Cook? Let's see if you can stop Dalvin Cook, because we don't think you can stop Dalvin Cook. Dallas's defense also is going to have Trevon Diggs out there, and as we talked about on the IDP Blitz with John Norton, sporting the Houday gear, I've never seen John Norton so happy as I did when we recorded the IDP Blitz this week. Trevon Diggs, that rare player, it's Marcus Peters, right? He gives up big plays. He makes big plays. So that's Justin Jefferson. That's Adam Thielen. That's Kirk Cousins. But, Cease, I get the feeling this is going to be like a 21-17, 24-21 game, not a 38-35 kind of game, not an air show, not a track meet, but one where these teams try to impose their will on each other in the line of scrimmage. That being said, if you like Dallas, I mean, obviously the weakest link, I think, here is the Vikings defense. So if you like Dallas to dictate this game by scoring on most of their drives, then maybe it's a KJ Osborne game. Maybe it's a Tyler Conklin game. Maybe it's a Kirk Cousins game. Maybe Kirk does get to drive the tractor and throw the ball 35 or 40 times. But if things go well here, I think it's a Dalvin Cook game. I think Dalvin Cook coming out of the bye, healthy, ready to go, and he wants it. He wants it. He wants the offense on his shoulders. Come on. Right. Let me do it. Let me pull the team. Let me carry the team. This is a great matchup, and I think that this could be one defined by these running backs and running games.
And by the way, shout out to Rushman, because look at this.
Wow.
He had Herschel on his fantasy team that year. That's legit. Like, I started playing fantasy football in 93. Bloom, you were shortly after that, I believe. Yeah. It's like, you find someone that's playing back then, man alive. That's respect. Respect to the OGs who had Herschel Walker on their team back then. I mean, I had his rookie card. I was happy for that. But hey, there you go. We're happy to talk about Monday Night Football, I guess. With the Giants side, it's Giants and Kansas City. Bloom, the Giants side of things is a little interesting because it's Monday and, you know, we're days away. So what's up with Sterling Shepard and what's up with Kenny Galladay and what's up with Saquon Barkley?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Talk to me on Saturday. Exactly. So, I mean, there could be a couple of different tales. You know, the Giants might be able to put up somewhat of a fight. Casey doesn't play defense. Okay, they're Bill Murray and Space Jam. They don't play defense. So the Giants could put up some of a fight, but with who and on Thursday is difficult to tell because they play Monday and they have all these key players that are banged up.
Yeah, and the Chiefs side, we'll talk about the Chiefs side and the emotional side of this game for them. But what's fun for the Giants is on this national stage, they can come in with a spoilers mentality. They can come in playing with house money, nothing to lose, whatever metaphor you want to use. But first things first for fantasy, like you said, it's Sterling Shepard, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, and Saquon Barkley. And the best info we've gotten, and I say info, and this isn't really info, I think this is just the way you have to think about this is, it's highly unlikely that all four are going to be back for Monday night. One or two could be back.
Sounds maybe Tony.
Yeah, we have to just see. I mean, it's Thursday right now when we record, so we just have to see practice participation, see how these injuries respond to practice. We may not know until Monday. We may go in with all four of these guys as game time decisions, and we're also going to watch like practice squad call-ups and things like that. Right. But either way, Daniel Jones played well last week. See, so I still keep my candles lit for the Daniel Jones second half breakout. He's growing on me. But you think about if you can get all of these pieces out there, if it can just happen, oh my, how do you defend that? How do you answer the questions this offense can ask? But maybe the questions are only going to be asked by Dante Pettis and John Ross and Evan Ingram and Darius Slayton. But hey, it's the Chiefs. I hope that Jason Garrett comes into this game with this idea of letting Daniel Jones play, getting him out of the situation where he's standing in the pocket flat-footed and not having the clock, not having the alarm go off, let him move, get his legs into play. And also there's Devontae Booker. And you got to be interested in Booker here, again, because it's Kansas City. So the Giants have a chance really to be another stumbling block for the Chiefs, whereas all eyes are on the Chiefs. Cease all week. I think probably even in Denver talk radio the Chiefs were a subject.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's wrong with the Chiefs? Are the Chiefs going to be okay? Is Patrick Mahomes okay? And even if some of it's just popcorn sports talk radio stuff, it indicates where we are on the trajectory of the Chiefs and how they respond. I think everyone's expecting them to come out and smoke the Giants. As if they don't, it'll just be more questions.
Yeah, more questions than it is talk. What's wrong? I think what's wrong can kind of be the headline of Denver Sports Talk. What's wrong with the Abs? What's wrong with the Nuggets? What's wrong with the Broncos? Oh, wait, nobody cares. And then what's wrong with the Chiefs? So, yeah, I did bring up the Chiefs on my show. It's seismic, right? It's monumental. It's something at
the
just
the rise and fall. It's it's how quick the rise and how quick the fall is. Yeah. And forget about dynasties. It's almost like we have to just retire the term dynasty in the NFL, because the only way you can remain a dynasty is do what Bill Belichick did and continually evolve and continually change and continually make.
Andy Reid doesn't change.
No.
He's the same coach from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
This is the problem.
Bless his heart.
And bless his heart. Yes, great man, all those sorts of things, whatever. They should run the ball down people's throats. They don't.
Yeah.
They should try to get the ball out on time and on rhythm as much as possible. They don't. Now, they're still great and they're still fantastic, and Mahomes is a magician with what he can do, but bounce back game, fantasy gyms are still going to their guys, the normal guys we always talk about, Bloom. I think there should be more Darrell Williams in this one, but we'll see. It's Andy Reid again, kind of like the refusal. It's like, nah. And I don't think Mahomes is getting figured out. I just think that the way defenses are playing this team and they're rushing Mahomes, they're frustrating him because he's trying to score 21 points on every throw.
Right.
He can't do that. And thus the Chiefs are struggling.
And like you said, Reed's not going to counterpunch, right? Maybe what the Chiefs stand for, some of it's the offensive line, and obviously the defense is horrendous, but the defense was horrendous the first time they almost made the Super Bowl. What it stands for is you can't just do the same thing every year in the NFL. The NFL's too smart for that. You just can't.
Yep.
I mean, maybe some games, like against Washington, you can. I mean, you know, when the players just don't have, when the teams don't have the players to stop you, okay, well, sure, you can do that with Patrick Mahomes, but is the Giants defense one of those defenses? They were a good defense last year, not so much this year. You know, they have some guys, Leonard Williams. That trade actually worked out for Gettleman. They have Azeez Ojulari. You know, you're looking for the players who are going to be able to attack the weaknesses in this offensive line that hasn't come together and put that pressure on Mahomes. But you have to, you know, the smart money here is on Mahomes with like a 5-touchdown game, and Hill scoring 2 of them, and Kelsey 1 touchdown in the last 5 games bouncing back, and Darrell Williams. And Darrell Williams, this is one of those games where you would say, give me one stat and I'll tell you the outcome of the game. And the stat is Darrell Williams rush attempts, right? I mean, you would want him, like you said, being a bigger part of this game, whether it be salting away a win or establishing the run, because the Giants are going to pin their ears back and come after Patrick Mahomes. And that's a good way to just, you know, take all the oomph out of them. Byron Pringle's coming on. You'll see if there's a start of a trend here out of all those complimentary receivers. But obviously the big story here in this game isn't anything to do with fantasy. It's the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. If this keeps up, Cease, we really will start asking, not as an ironic question, but a real question. Can this Chiefs team make the playoffs?
And even if they do win and win in big fashion, you know, 45-3 or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean they're back.
No. Well, and see, with a little bit more of a Thursday night thing here. But look, I mean, this is what comes with being a number 1 seed, right? Here's what's coming up for Kansas City: Green Bay at Las Vegas, Dallas, their bye. Okay, Denver, whatever. Yeah. Vegas at the Chargers, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati, Denver. So I mean, what, the Denver games are wins,
right?
And the Steelers game,
sure.
So where does that put this team, this out of the playoffs, if they can't beat good teams?
And it was right there for you, Broncos, every day. Until you dropped the ball. You don't drop the ball with what the heck flex. It's time to look over your lineups. You need some punch. And in week 8, some of my what the heck flexes bloom. And we've talked about them along the way, but I don't even think James Conner's a what the heck flex. He's more like flex worthy.
Right.
What the heck flex to me is more like Boston Scott. What the heck flex? Brandon Bolden. What the heck flex? Dearness Johnson against the Steelers. He deserves something. What the heck flex? My heart kind of wants a Philip Lindsay what the heck flex, but maybe give it a week. And maybe Gio Bernard is a what the heck flex. So the wide receiver position, Tim Patrick, I talked about him as a what the heck flex. Randall Cobb tonight, what the heck flex. Khalif Raymond, my man, what the heck flex. And well, that about does it on my what the heck flex group. I have Van Jefferson as a regular flex, but if you want to call him what the heck flex, whatever. And we did talk about Michael Gallup and his potential return out there. So, Bloom, you look over your lineup in Week 8. You need some punch. Who are some of your Week 8 what the heck flexes?
Low-hanging fruit here, Myles Gaskin and Devontae Booker probably going to lead their backfields in touches. Booker certainly will. I don't expect Barkley to be back. I'd put him on the lower end out of those four. Just keep that in mind. We'll be watching that. David Johnson. So you're right, Cecil. For this week, a lot of questions about the Houston backfield in the wake of the Ingram trade. For this week, I think it's David Johnson. But Philip Lindsay has a way of overcoming the odds. He has a way of defying expectations. And maybe it's not this week, but we're keeping our eye out for Philip Lindsay always. Michael Carter and Ty Johnson, just because the Jets, Mike White passed it a lot to the running backs last week. So in PPR leagues, that could be a hit for you. Samaje Perine against the Jets. Remember, he had the dagger to finish that game. He also does well as a receiver, which again is one of the issues. The Jets just can't stop running backs. I think the stat I saw, Cease, was running backfields are averaging 28 fantasy points a game against the Jets. Averaging 28 fantasy points a game. So, you could get Mixon with 16 and Perine with 12. It could still work out. The next highest was the Chargers at 22. Also, running back, you might want to look at those Philadelphia guys. Boston Scott, maybe more touches. Kenneth Gainwell, more explosive against Detroit. A wide receiver, we'll see who plays for the Giants again, but Dante Pettis, Darius Slayton are interesting plays here. KJ Osborne is interesting if you think that Minnesota's going to have to pass a lot. Got to mention Khalif Raymond. Already mentioned Tyler Johnson. Van Jefferson's another good one. Randall Cobb. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, if he's active. Now, if he's active, what you can get here is potentially long plays. You also might get like 3 targets, no catches. And by the way, add in Robert Tonyan. Here's how high I am on Robert Tonyan. I would just treat him as a wide receiver this week. He's a what the heck flex. Like if Tunyan's your number 2 tight end, I would consider flexing him this week, a true what the heck flex, because that's who Aaron Rodgers is going to have to throw to against Arizona. And again, I'll mention Tyler Johnson against New Orleans. And I'm pretty fired up. After we did the second half of this preview, I'm like, it's going to be a good weekend of football. I don't see any games in the primetime games. I see good games in both slots on Sunday. We're going to have a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about here on the Audible, and that's why we love you and appreciate you for checking out our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/footballguys. And we appreciate you guys for checking out our other shows, Mailbag Show, doing wonderful things. So the Dynasty Newsletter, Dynasty Show, we've got you covered. Also with our Football Guys Shorts, which features Sigmund Bloom in there and every week. So, so check that out as well. And, of course, our Power Grid show. So hit that notification bell. Do all those YouTube things like share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And if you love the show, support the show. Footballguys.com. Go there, click the orange Join Now button. You want to, pay back the show or support the show or whatever with
spread the
Audible
love.
Or spread the love. Well, please subscribe if you can, and we appreciate you for doing that. And check us out at footballguys.com. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.